History of my oldest ancestors of whom I am very proud descend. The first conquest of Silves to the Moors. September 2nd, 1189, the first conquest of Silves from the Moors with the help of the Crusaders and by the command of Count Dom Mendo Gonçalves de Sousa, the Sousa, my 26th grandfather, for times my grandfather, 10th Lord of the House of Sousa, Ricoman, Majordomo Major of Dom Sancho First King of Portugal, Ensign Major of the Kingdom, Patron Saint of the Monastery of Pombeiro, great-nephew of Dom Afonso Henriques, First King of Portugal. Count Dom Mendo Gonçalves de Sousa, the Sousa, 10th Lord of the House of Sousa, rich man, chief butler of Dom Sancho I, King of Portugal, chief ensign of the kingdom, patron saint of the Pombeiro Monastery, was born in 1140. He was the son of Dom Gonçalo Mendes de Sousa, the Good, 9th Lord of the House of Sousa, Major Butler, Condal Lieutenant, and Dona Urraca Sanchez de Selanova, paternal grandson of Dom Mem Vigas de Sousa, 8th Lord of the House of Sousa, and Dona Teresa Fernandez de Marnal, and maternal grandson of Dom Sancho Nunes de Barbosa, Count of Barbosa, Governor of Ponte de Lima, and Dona Sancha Henriques, Infanta of Portugal, sister of Dom Afonso Henriques. Dom Mendo Gonçalves de Sousa the Sousa was the 10th Lord of the House of Sousa, a rich man who held the positions of Ensign Major from 1173 to 1176, and then Majordomo Major between 1186 and 1192, of King Dom Sancho I from Portugal, alongside those who were in combat, particularly during the conquest of Silves, was also patron saint of the monastery of Pombeiro. He became known as Conde Dom Mendo, and would become one of the most illustrious members of the Sousa family. Biography. Son of Dom Gonçalo Mendes de Sousa the Good, and Dona Urraca Sanchez de Selanova, who was related to the royal house. She was the maternal niece of Dom Afonso Henriques, first King of Portugal, as she was the daughter of Dom Sancho Nunes de Selanova and Dona Sancha Henriques, from the Burgundy dynasty, daughter of Count Dom Enrique de Burgundy, Count of Portucali and Dona Teresa de Leon, and therefore sister of Dom Afonso Henriques, first King of Portugal. His father had not given him a minor ancestry. The Sousas were the most important noble family in the kingdom and had always been at Dom Afonso Henriques' side. Dom Mendo would have been knighted by Dom Fernão Pérez de Trava, Count of Trastamara, my 28th grandfather, 5 times my grandfather, at a time after the Battle of Mendo, when he resumed relations with Portugal, and clearly before 1155, date of death of the Galician knight. The sphere of power. The rise and royal support. Dom Mendo appears for the first time holding an important position in 1173, when he takes the position of Ensign Major, which had already been held by his uncle, Dom Garcia Mendes de Sousa, in 1141. It was at this time that his father passed away and Dom Mendo fully occupied his role at court. In 1176 he left the Alferesia to take, a decade later, the post of Majordomo Major. These posts clearly added greater prestige and influence to the already prestigious and influential House of Sousa, whose head was Dom Mendo himself. Unfortunately, his father's long life did not allow him, when it was his turn to assume leadership of the family, to enjoy the influence that was destined for him. Stewardship. In the post of Majordomo Major, he succeeded his brother-in-law Dom Vasco Fernandez de Soverosa, husband of his half-sister Dona Teresa Gonçalves de Sousa, and at the time he was appointed he was Lieutenant of Lisbon. His government position is proven in a donation from 1186 that Dom Sancho I of Portugal made to the monastery of Santa Cruz de Coimbra. The taking and loss of Silves. Dom Mendo was a nobleman with extensive warfare, most notably the capture of the Silves Square on September 2nd, 1189. At the beginning of that year, with the help of a fleet of Danish and Frisian crusaders, the conquest began with the capture of Alva Castle. In the summer of the same year, with the help of a new fleet of crusaders, now English and German, Dom Sancho I, my 26th grandfather, for times my grandfather, from the second half of July, attempts to conquer Silves, to which he imposed a harsh siege. Although there is no documentary evidence, it is possible that as soon as the Portuguese arrived close to the city, Dom Mendo sent instructions to the foreign crusaders who came to help the Portuguese, but the joint assault would not have resulted in the fall of the square. After a few days, the Christians attacked Silves again, this time Dom Mendo commanding the Allied troops. the narrative of one of its participants is known about the conquest, who describes the violence of the siege, as well as the use of a variety of war machines, such as wooden towers, catapults and a hedgehog-armed wooden sphere with iron spikes, which destroyed several towers and sections of the wall, leading to the surrender of the town on September 2, 1189, violently looted at the time. Dom Mendo, on the other hand, performed great feats that encouraged the Allies and ended up leading to the conquest, still in that year of 1189. The town of Silves and its castle remained in the possession of Portugal until the Almohad counteroffensive, under the command of Caliph Ayub al-Manca, in 1191, which culminated in the loss of all Christian conquests in the territories south of the Tagus River, with the exception of the city of Evora. Without knowing whether it was related to the defeat or not, Dom Mendo left office in 1192, and did not survive long after. Land power. Thanks to his great influence and powerful ancestry, he had various assets, honors, couples, villages, patronages of churches and monasteries, from different sources, inheritances, donations from other family members, monasteries, villages, private farmers, and will have made no fewer purchases. In 1258, a large part of these assets were in the possession of their grandchildren, which reflects the attempt to retain assets by this family, probably initiated by their father and continued by him, with the Sousas ending up being a successful case of this method of protecting assets. Family assets. However, this did not prevent Dom Mendo from also disposing of some assets to other entities, especially churches and monasteries. Marriage and descent. Dom Mendo Gonçalves de Sousa was married to Dona Maria Rodrigues Veloso, my 26th grandmother, 4 times my grandmother, with whom he had. Dom Gonçalo Mendes de Sousa was lord of the House of Sousa and chief butler during the reign of King Dom Sancho I. He married Dona Teresa Soares de Ribaduro. Dona Guiomar Mendes de Sousa, married to Dom João Pires de Maia, my 25th grandparents, 3 times my grandparents. Dom Garcia Mendes de Sousa, rich man and troubadour, lieutenant in Gouveia and Castelo Branco, married Dona Elvira Gonçalves de Toronho, my 25th grandparents, 3 times my grandparents, daughter of Dom Gonçalo País de Toronho and Dona Jimena País from Maia. Dom Vasco Mendes de Sousa, my 25th grandfather, rich man of the court of Dom Sancho I, lieutenant in Bragança and Panoias, and benefactor of the monastery of Pombeiro where he was buried. He didn't marry, but he had a son called Dom Rui Vasquez de Sousa, Lord of Panoias, my 24th grandfather. Dom Rodrigo Mendes de Sousa, ensign major in 1192 and between 1196 and 1198. He governed the tenancies of Aguiar de Pina, Boião, Maia, Panoias, and Penaguiro. Benefactor of the monasteries of Pombeiro and Alcabaca where he is buried. Dona Iraca Mendes de Sousa married to Dom Nuno Perez de Gusmão, the Good, Lord of the House of Gusmão. Dom Enrique Mendes de Sousa. Out of wedlock, from a lady from Guimores, he had Dom Martin Mendes, Count, from whom the Molas come.